Drinking this album, listen to the brews. I think it would pair well, if only for you, 'cause it's album and brews. It's album and brews.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Album or Brews, the stickiest music podcast. That's right, we never change. We are still the stickiest, and we are still talking about music. I am also still your co-host. My name is Sarah.
I did a pod for you and all the things you do.
Wow.
And it wasn't yellow because you can't see a podcast, but it was called Album or Brews. My name's Zach.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Wow, those were good. My name's Quinn, and I hope there's no spies around because we're going to be talking about a forbidden band.
Confidential government information.
Coldplay.
Well, I'm, panicking a bit here, but I was told don't panic. I'm Austin.
Welcome. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't Panic seems more like it should be like a 2000s like pop song than it does a Coldplay song.
Yeah,
definitely.
By
Sounds
who?
like it should be a little more angsty.
Olivia Rodrigo. I don't know.
Wow.
That's not 2000s. Who was popular in 2000s?
Brittany.
Britney.
I can see Brittany.
Well, thank you guys for coming on the show. We're super excited to have you. Well, fun fact, we actually share a rehearsal space, one of my bands, and Big Weather. And so when Austin reached out, I was like, yeah, you can come on the show.
We're roommates.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I was excited, guys, I don't know if you ever checked this bulletin board here, but there's this really cool podcast. This looks fun. Should I do it? And then Wynn was like, yeah, that's my band. You can have those people. I was like, oh yeah, cool. Sweet.
So Big Weather is an alt country act. This is not an alt country album we're talking about today, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was a conscious decision. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think similarly, while it's an alt country album, and obviously it's changing since Quinn and I met and he joined the band. It's really also a bedroom pop kind of thing. When I started making music, I was listening to Wild Nothing and some of those drum machine and a laptop, kind of dreamier, whisperier kind of vocals. And I don't think the music's lost that. I kind of started doing the country thing, but that was the newer part of the sound. I have older music that, some of which I've shown you guys and some I haven't, that's more truly dream pop, kind of softer. This is soft too, but just softer, kind of, I don't know, the type of music that people would pick on you for at Fort Knox. Everybody with their double bass pedals, playing this really cool, fun music, and then we've got this kind of soft Coldplay little band. It doesn't necessarily sound like that, but in spirit, it's maybe a little closer to that than
They're
one might
oh,
think.
you like Claro? That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So real fast, so the folks at home can know, if you want to go check them out on Instagram, it's The Big Weather at Instagram. And then you can go check out an EP of theirs, Square Dancing. And I love that it's dancing, not dancing.
Yeah, I was back and forth on that, but it's what it is.
It's fun.
Yeah. And then real quick, tell us how you two met.
It's a funny story. I mean, this is cute. We're a couple. Do you want to
Yeah.
tell it or should I? We should learn our origin story, and learn to do the little
Right,
dance.
go back and forth
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
In a cute way.
So
So we
Austin,
and Quinn met at
Carol's. It's a country bar where a secret.
show for Wilco was happening.
I remember almost going to this. Is this the one that was not too long ago?
When was it? It was
Maybe it was close to a
April.
year ago now.
I was gonna say it was in 2021.
Yeah, because I think it was in the fall.
Right.
Wasn't it?
I'm thinking
Or
because
the
the
end of the
band
summer?
started recently that it was as recent as this year, but it was last year that we met.
Yeah, because we didn't jump right into playing together, I don't think.
Yeah.
Which, we were, strangers up until that moment, honestly.
Right.
But yeah, we just ran into each other in line. It was very much a last minute, secret show kind of vibe where we were both a little too late probably to seeing the Facebook or Instagram posts or whatever where they said they'd be giving away tickets to a free show. So then, the whole city or every Wilco fan in the city, of which there are obviously a lot.
the whole city.
rushed there, yeah, and line around the block, news coverage and
Line
stuff
around
there.
many blocks.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a 6-block deep line, I think, by the time I got in.
Carol's
Yeah.
is not a big pub.
Right,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
so it was really cool. So and then we kind of became line mates, got to know the people around, each other.
We've never talked about this, but we were standing next to some pretty interesting folks too. There was this one girl who had a bike. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
And she kept like riding up to the front of the line and like badgering the line person, like the security people.
Yeah.
Like, do you think
forgot about that?
where do you think we're all the way back here 3 blocks down? Do you think we're gonna get in? And she'd come back all pissed.
Oh man.
It was a really fun
See,
day.
It was kind of nice having her though, because it's like we all wanted to know that, but no one wanted to be like, you know, that guy to be like, yeah, let's ask the door person because I'm sure they know how many people carols can fit. I'm sure they do this all the time. Like, yeah. I'm sure they have secret shows of massive bands at carols all the time. I'm sure they'll know exactly how many people.
It really was kind of, it sucked, but it was like fun. Like they were telling us that, we're going to run out of space, like while we were like really far away. But then we kept getting news like, oh, they're adding a second show. So they added a second show. So we stayed in line for another like 50 minutes. And then we're like, we're still not going to make it. Then they added a third show. So we stayed in line, and I think we got like 20 people deep, like away from the door.
We were pretty close by the end. Like I really
Yeah.
thought we might have a chance to get in, but you know, it's what it is. It was
Wow.
obviously, I think later that night was the show, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
this was like, so that was like a funny vibe too. Is like everybody's like, you know, in their pajamas or like, someone had a bike. Like my girlfriend and I were like in the car with her dog, so we were like holding her in our arms. Like everybody just kind of dropped whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh shit,
Just
let's
hang
see if
out
we
for
can get
Wilco.
these tickets. Yeah, so it was a really funny vibe, just like a lot of like interesting outfits and like, you know, a lot of people who were just out like running errands, and then we're like, oh shit, like, you know,
so
let me
I
try to hop
remember-
in this line. This is now the theme of my day.
I
So,
remember seeing it,
was
and I was
really
like,
funny,
what
yeah.
plans can I cancel to go hang out at this pub at like 2 p.m.? And I couldn't cancel any of them.
My girlfriend had this recital that night that I was going to go to, and she found a Facebook post and sent it to me, but she waited because she still wanted me to go to her recital. So she was like, she didn't want to tell me that they were there like 5 blocks from my house or
And
whatever.
if she didn't, Big Weather would never exist in the way it
Yeah,
does.
if she didn't tell me right then, I would have made it into the show, but I wouldn't have met Austin.
Yeah, that's really crazy to think. That's true because you're right around that area. I am not
Thanks, Wilco.
worked out. Yeah, thanks, Wilco.
Stars aligned.
Yeah.
Speaking of Wilco, this band we're not talking about is not Wilco. Will you guys tell us about the album and the drink pairing we're going to get into today?
Yeah. So the drink, from what I understand, we're doing flights because it's like parachutes, flight themes,
We're flying.
sky.
Which is the album? Sorry, we're doing parachutes.
We're
by
doing
Coldplay.
parachutes by Coldplay.
They read it in the
They read
title.
the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. If you're listening by this point, you probably like this album, or at least are curious.
Yeah.
Would someone like to describe our table situation, what it looks like right now?
It looks like one of those scenes of like all the stormtroopers like lined up in the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like you got like just rows of flights. We're rocking with like 16 pretty big flight glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be a good way to get to know each other. So yeah, and then we've got just the variety pack Lagunitas, which I don't know, my beer knowledge might be wrong, but I think Lagunitas is based originally in California, but then also in Chicago. So I thought that might be cool because Quinn here is from California. I grew up in, the Chicago suburbs and stuff. So it seemed like the move.
Oh, there is a little more tie-in.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
I thought it was because we were talking about Coldplay, and these are cold beers.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's
thought
why
that was-
once you get the flight thing out of the way, that's another good connection. Yeah, there you go.
That's a real reach.
It would be a really funny spoiler if they were just warm beers and we're like
They're
20
getting
minutes
warmer,
into like
we
an
gotta
hour
start
podcast
cracking
and
all-
it's like, oh, and I brought warm beers. I'd be like, oh, shit.
Well, that's when we talk about warm play.
Warm play.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great cover band idea. Okay, so here's each of the beers in the flight is the Lagunitas Hazy Wonder. These are all IPAs. I hope you guys like IPAs. The Island Beats Tropical IPA. Just their straight up IPA. This one's a classic. Me and Sarah know her very well. This is a little something something. A little something something.
I love little something.
Love a little something something.
Classic.
How about we like go down the paddle and do a quick first sip of everyone?
Oh, okay.
Let's try and first take a sip, because we know her and we love her, of a little something something.
This one's a classic. Cheers.
Cheers. Very fitting though, because
She's
this is
perfect.
parachutes, and I already feel like I need to like abort the flight idea and jump out of the plane because I've already fucked this up. Right
The beauty of podcasting is that'll be like a 10-second ordeal for the listener.
No, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be so condensed. This is so fun though.
That's
Like we've
classic.
never done this on the show.
This
Yeah.
is cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys rolled with this idea, and thanks for picking up the flights and stuff.
Of
Like,
course.
yeah, I hope this will be the first of many to go
Yep.
this route.
I'm
Yeah.
immediately thinking if anyone wants to come on and do a wine flight.
Mm.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
'Cause I'm a wine girl more than I am a beer
There you
girl.
go.
I don't really taste the wheat in the little something something. It's a wheat IPA.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting hop.
Yeah.
Hop. Like it's such a drinkable
always-
IPA.
Yeah, I was gonna
think.
say I'm not always like a huge IPA person, but a little something. Like I feel like maybe the wheat in it just like cuts the bitterness of it, so
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel as much like an IPA.
It doesn't feel so stinky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get any like discernible aftertaste kind of notes?
I would say often when I drink an IPA, I get kind of a cannabis note.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Because I know
that's
that
definitely true.
but not a
hops and
good
weed are, like-
cannabis note.
No, yeah, like kind of a skunky.
It's
Skunky
the
weed,
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or sometimes like kind of citrusy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
this
but like
next one
citrus peel.
this next one we're trying, the Hazy Wonder, is a little more citrusy.
Okay, Hazy Wonder.
All right, here we
Cheers.
go.
Cheers.
This one's like super light.
Yum!
This is a light
Oh
beer.
man,
I love a hazy.
this is good.
I
This
like
is-
a fruity guy.
I'm picturing like a blind taste test of these beers, and I don't think I could discern the difference at all. Yeah,
No.
We need a good palate cleanser.
yeah, definitely.
I feel like every time I see a hazy IPA like on a menu, they're like, it's got lemon or orange.
That's what I was
or
thinking.
something
yeah.
like
I
that.
thought it was gonna be more.
I don't know if
citrusy.
that's like the qualifier.
And it looks like that, but to me, I'm not tasting like a.
Yeah, I wish it was more.
This tastes more
citrusy.
like a just like a light beer, like an ale.
I'm not gonna lie, that tastes mad similar to the first
Yeah,
one.
it really does. It really does.
We're on to you,
Like a-
Lagunitas.
It's
lighter
possible that
version.
we just mispoured though.
That's
because
true.
like that's totally normal and acceptable if you did that in your flight, from what I've heard.
Yeah, no, that's like if you go to a brewery, like they could totally like not pour what you asked for.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how would you know?
Sometimes get two of the same beer in a flight, and that's okay.
That's
part of the
totally
experience.
cool. So we have a plethora of the island. Shall we do that next?
Yeah.
This one not brewed in the tropics. That's false advertising.
Oh.
Less stinky, more
Mm-hmm.
bright. The aftertaste is where I get like a little like pineapple or a little
Yeah.
something.
This
Yeah.
feels like an IPA that my mom would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I would drink
this is
this,
cute.
like, on a
yeah,
boat.
I'm glad I poured 3 of these. This
Yeah.
one's my favorite so far.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
I should have got a variety pack that wasn't just IPAs. That's my bad.
No, this
all
it's
Or like
fun.
the
all good.
IPA-ness of this one is very IPA.
Yeah.
If we ever have like an actual beer expert listen to our show, they're gonna be like, these fucking
Lagunitas.
balls.
So at Lagunitas is like throwing their flights.
Oh my god.
Lagunitas is gonna like Lagunitas is gonna send you guys like a cease and desist. Yeah.
Or a PR package.
Or
Right.
PR packet. Or
That'd
free
be
beer.
cool. Yeah.
We have gotten free beer before.
That'd be sweet.
Okay, last one
The OG.
is the dark girl. So maybe this is what you were missing. But I
Yeah.
have this can right here.
So is this the Lagunitas IPA?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh,
I like
that
it.
one's like pokier. That
Yeah.
one that kind of
My least favorite, I think.
really.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, it's of course a little something something's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them saying I've done the like Lagunitas tour here, and I remember the guy that led our tour was like the Lagunitas IPA is so like ahead of the IPA trend that like if you tried it compared to any other IPA, you'd be like, this is not an IPA, like because the things have gotten so much more like bitter, and that's become more the focus of like breweries and stuff that they're like it's not even like anywhere near like our strongest
Yeah.
IPA anymore. It's just like kind of the original.
It's just
So-
like an IPA.
Yeah. When I think of Lagunitas, I also think of their like I feel like they do a really good non-alcoholic assortment.
Oh,
Like they
that'd be
have their
cool.
IPNA
Mm.
and it exists and I
Oh.
bought it like during a dry January or whatever.
If you're
Adds
gonna
up.
if you're gonna drink a dry beer, you should probably drink an IPA.
Yeah.
Just like get the beeriest taste.
Or their hop water is so good. Also Lagunitas. That's more like if lemon beer was a LaCroix. But it's good.
I do like hop
It's
water. Those are
good.
good. Yeah.
So IPA is India Pale Ale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Will you tell the story about IPA?
I think I have this right, but an IPA It's actually fitting that we've got like a British band,
Yeah,
like Coldplay and stuff.
It's
A
a British
lot of
group.
tie-ins we're kind of stumbling into along
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
But the IPA was a beer that, from my understanding, they over-hopped to preserve when the British were colonizing India. And my history is not good. I don't know what era that would have been, but in the, I assume the early, or at least like the, kind of prime stages of that colony, in order to get beer over from England, you had to add more hops to it, I think, right? In order to like preserve it and make sure
for
that
the
it didn't
long
go
trip
bad.
from England all the way to India.
Yeah, so
It was like salt curing.
yeah, so
Yeah.
shout out Mike Connolly, my dad, for not only suggesting the flight idea, but teaching me that little like tidbit. Because
Yeah.
now I
Shout
think
out
it's
Mike.
funny when people like triple hop beers. I'm like, this tastes terrible. And like the point of the IPA like was never for like taste. It was just to like preserve beer so that
Convenience,
you can like
Yeah.
so
You
that
could ship
get,
it to India.
You get a little buzzed after work when you're over in India, being a horrible person.
Love that.
Yeah, colonizing. Ooh. So
Similar-
not a great history, but an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
one.
I
Certainly
promise
a
we'll stay
history.
out of British colonies for
Yeah.
this podcast.
So, similar kind of story with cheese, right? Like,
Yeah.
not really. They didn't purposefully preserve it. I guess it was the opposite, right? Like, it's bad milk.
Right. and
essentially.
it's almost like dry aged.
Do you know the origins of cheese?
No.
We're
I just
not
know.
a cheese podcast, but I'll tell you a little bit about
God,
it.
can we
please.
start a
Start a
cheese
spin-off
podcast?
cheese podcast. You'd probably have like two members.
They-
Like Albemarle Breeze.
Oh, that's
Please,
really
please,
good.
please.
Wow, that was so
that's so
effortless.
good.
Wow, that's really good. Should definitely do that.
So they think that some of the first cheese invented was by accident when shepherds would they would carry a sheep's stomach for water and milk. And so if you left the milk in the sheep's stomach as like their drinking pouch there, the enzymes from the stomach would interact with the milk in a way that would
The
turn it.
rennet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about cheese making.
Wow.
So they think that's the origins of cheese. That the shepherds just found out that if you left it in there on accident by long enough, that it tasted good. It was kind of like a.
Wow.
That's like
So disgusting.
Someone was like, let me just put this on some crackers.
No, yeah. I feel like cheese, like beer, like if you think about it for too long, you're like, I don't like that anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy how times have changed. Like these days, like if you don't have a bed frame, you're like scum to society. Imagine being like, yeah, I just like have a lot of rotting things around,
Yeah.
and like, I try them from time to time, and they're good. It's like you would just be shunned by society.
Like I just ate this
You just-
old
you
milk
just
in
had
my
a-
sheep stomach.
in your water bottle.
Super chill.
Yeah, if I leave milk in my water bottle, people tell me to move to the next train.
They say, ew, stinky.
Exactly.
But if you
yeah.
do it in 1300s Europe,
You're the inventor of cheese.
Yeah, you're an innovator. It's like, yeah. Jeez.
Anywho, let's talk about something else stinky, which is the Spotify algorithm.
Oh, sure.
I was looking at this record and I was like, wow, there's like billions of plays on some of these songs.
Yeah.
Yellow in
Humongous.
particular is insane.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like worthy of it, I think, because it's a great album.
It's a great song, yeah.
But I wanted to shine some light, since we're shining a light on a billions of plays, I wanted to shine light on 0 plays.
Okay.
Are you guys
Oh,
familiar?
right. The recent change in the Spotify's.
Oh, they just did
thing.
another thing, yeah, right?
They just like
Something else
changed
shitty.
how their royalties are getting paid out.
Yeah.
And it's like if you don't get above X threshold of streams, you just no money. Just no
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with this application, Forgetify?
No.
No.
This is a fun little algorithm that will, because there is like something like 60,000 plus songs on Spotify a day that get uploaded.
Wow.
And so this is an application that finds songs that have never had one play on Spotify.
So we're gonna be their first play.
So
Sick.
it'll play you an unplayed song.
That's so sick.
That is so sick.
And here's the game I've invented for it. I've called it Describify.
Okay.
Oh.
And I am going to give you guys the song name,
Uh-huh.
who's this by. I'm going to describe the artwork real fast.
Okay.
And then you guys can, all against each other, must guess something you think you're going to hear in the first 10 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Zach, this is a good game.
This is cool. I
Zach
actually
came into
love
my
this.
apartment
Yeah.
earlier.
I hope
came
some
over-
artist blows up from this too. Like, that'd
real.
be sick. Like,
You came over and you were like, I have my
That's the
shit
dream.
on lock today. And you were
Nice.
right.
This is great,
This is
too.
really fun.
I've listened to a few of these podcasts now, and like like gets to the game part, I'm like, oh god, that's what I'm most nervous for. Like, my palms get sweaty. I don't think you can like lose this game. So that's good.
No.
Yeah.
Winner gets a listen on their Spotify account from me.
Awesome.
God, I was.
Oh no.
Oh shit. Oh, 0 plays for us. Ouch.
Wow.
I was just listening to Ashland on the EP
Oh,
Square
thank
Dancing,
you. Yeah.
which you should go check out right after this episode.
Yeah, please do. Please.
That
do.
one's already got some
Yeah,
streams.
we're in that
though.
weird
Heyo.
weird spot where we got too many streams to be in podcast game show segments, but not enough to make any money. So we're caught in that terrible,
Super cute purgatory.
yeah, that terrible middle ground.
All right. To figure out who's going to go first, I'm thinking of a Beatles song. Whoever can guess it correctly will go first.
Yellow Submarine.
Shit, that's what I was gonna say.
I'm gonna go with Something by the Beatles.
I'm gonna say Yellow Submarine.
You guys are all wrong. It's Then and Now, the brand new AI enhanced Beatles song. But I think Quinn was closest, but by some arbitrary measure.
real quick. So it's like AI backed restoration technology or something. What?
Guess so. I
What
didn't
is
look it up.
Okay, because I don't like it. I don't like the thought.
Yeah.
All right. So you can be as descriptive or vague if you'd like.
Cool.
You get the point if it's in the track. In the first 10 seconds of it. So this first track is called Bonjour, Métier Médecine, that I probably butchered, by John Locke Madeir. And the album cover is, it's like water paint maybe, but it's a lot of people dancing, and they're maybe in like, not cowboy getup, but like old-timey getup, like
Nice.
Oh.
dresses and jackets and...
Oh.
Okay.
So starting at Quinn, going around a circle.
All right. I think we're gonna hear. Something, an instrument outside of the typical guitar, bass, drum, rock format. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna guess like a lap steel or pedal steel guitar.
Some folk instrumentation.
Just because you
perhaps.
said cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, Austin.
I'm going maybe more off the title, but I think the opposite, honestly. I think we might be hearing some like acoustic guitar off riff, maybe like a little like kind of similar to the getup you've got going with like some like nylon strings or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah.
This feels very French. I'm thinking like, I think this is gonna give us the energy of like sitting outside in the street and like sipping a cappuccino.
Oh, that's so vague. I love it.
Thank you.
Dire la la, ma sœur ne pleurez pas tard, ma sœur ne pleurez pas tard, ma sœur ne pleurez pas tard.
I'm gonna give points to Austin and Quinn
Yeah, no, that did not give me cappuccino.
because there was nylon guitar.
There's also like a mandolin or something.
There's also like a
Yeah.
mandolin and some weird like block percussion that I would consider outside of like though.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Congratulations on your first stream.
And what a moment that was for the first time ever on Spotify history. That was Bonjour, Métier Médecine.
Actually sounded pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
This next one is called Follow Me, in parentheses, Camelot, by Claire Moore. This is a great album artwork. So it looks like a pencil-drawn bird person with glasses on, and their hands are up in the air, but coming out of like clouds, and their hands are puppeteering the name of the album, An Evening with Alan J. Lerner.
That's wild.
You would have thought I made that up, but that's what it looks like.
Okay.
We'll go reverse order now. So Sarah first.
Okay. This sounds like, based on what I've heard, it's like from someone's like one-man show. So I think we're gonna get kind of cabaret vibes.
Okay. All right, Austin.
I feel like similarly it might be like someone's solo project, but like the puppeteer like thing, maybe I'm just thinking like Master of Puppets, like Metallica kind of thing too much. But I think it's gonna have like that like metal sound where like somebody like tried to program like metal drums like on like, an actual drum. So I think it's gonna have like some like kind of shitty but cool like heavy metal kind of drums, but like not played by an actual drum. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Okay,
it'll
that's
be,
a good
little
guess. That's a
fake.
good guess.
I don't know.
I'm thinking like like Renaissance fair,
Yeah.
like RuneScape music, like really old English type instrumentation.
All right, let's find out. I'm so excited because this is so weird.
From day, far from night, out of time, out of sight, in between earth and sea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
really
Not at
nice.
all what I expected.
Beautiful.
I think that's kind of a one-man show. I'll give the point to Sarah.
That feels theatrical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also very RuneScapey, I think. Like the
It's
dun, dun, dun,
dun,
dun
dun,
strings
dun.
was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
like.
That was
I wish I remembered the name of the songs
Varric.
from RuneScape, but it's very like you're fishing in the river.
Yep. You know, I always say that opera is my one genre that I don't like, but I was kind of fucking with that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
sick.
it was
I
nice.
agree. Yeah.
It'll be on the
Character
playlist. Link in
development.
description.
See?
This song is called These Foolish Things by Harry Babison. The album artwork is, I'm assuming, Harry. A very jolly looking guy in his mid 40s, maybe. He's got some very thin wired glasses on, holding an upright bass. He's wearing a watch.
Okay.
Quentin first.
Certainly jazz, like tradition, like jazz quartet with like an upright bass.
Sure. Yeah,
stuff.
That covers like an entire genre. So what am I left with here? Let's see. I feel like there'll be no vocals in the beginning of this song.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
That's a cheap, generic enough way to get around it and get a point here.
I think specifically, because I also feel very jazz, I think specifically we're going to hear like when people play the drums with like a brush.
Let's
Yeah.
find out.
We're all right.
Wow, there is
Hell
the drum
yeah.
brush there.
Hell yeah. We nailed it. That's a
Harry-
great
You
call.
were all right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Harry Babison, this sounds great. I'm
is
all about this.
awesome.
This is fine. That's like a xylophone solo.
Yeah.
One of you guys could have said xylophone solo.
If you called xylophone lead, you would have got like 4 points.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would have
Did not
kissed you on the mouth.
expect
That was awesome. Wow.
Nice.
All right, this next song is called Serenity by Vivian Kahor. The album artwork is like it's a picture of a lake with like dark trees in the background, and there's an effect on the moon in the sky that kind of looks like you took the picture like through raindrops. Very beautiful.
Okay, I have very strong feelings about this.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think this is going to be like if you ever went to the Hallmark store when you were a kid and you remember they had those big machines where you could press buttons and like hear previews from different CDs. And there were always a couple that were kind of like meditative spa music. I think it's going to give very that.
Okay, yeah. That
Like
checks
we're
out.
going to hear some woodwinds. We're going to hear something like that.
I've low key been thinking about like making spa music because it gets played at spas for royalties.
Please,
Like if you
yes.
just had a spa music song that like got a ton of plays, you could make like 8 cents a week.
Yoga studios
Yeah.
too. I go to yoga
Oh,
class
yeah.
and I know they're
They're
just putting on a
always-
playlist
yeah.
called like chill.
And they've got to
yoga
play like a
vibes.
blanket license to ASCAP and BMI, right?
Work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Big
how you're
brain.
raking the big bucks.
All right, Austin, it's all you. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe I'm bound to hit on this idea at some point, but I think it's going to be very like, that one song like Wake Me Up or whatever. I think it's going to have that kind
That
of
was
like
my
vibe
first
to it.
thought too when I saw everything. I was like, is this gonna be like
Okay,
a 2000s
that-
like girl rock song?
Yeah, that validates.
Whoa.
Maybe it's gonna be what like a kind of like alternative metal like kind of genre. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I got to be right at some point with that kind of guess.
No, I'm thinking like acoustic sad girl type of vibe.
Okay. I feel very serene.
I think it might be just a piano ballad, which I think is gonna give the point to Sarah, because you would hear this on a little scan your CD.
You certainly.
Yeah, that's definitely closest for sure.
It was it's almost Evanescence.
I was gonna say if like there was a big drop and like some drums came in or something. I could see
Yeah,
that. I was like
uh-huh.
kind of crossing my fingers.
symphonic
like,
with the
what
piano.
was that?
That's Evanescence
Yeah.
for sure.
As much as I want to keep playing this game for like ever, this is a spin-off podcast.
No, like we need to play this every
Yeah.
episode.
You guys are
now.
starting a podcast
This is so
empire
fun.
here.
Yeah, we're trying.
Album
TM.
Breeze. That's really clever.
Oh my God.
This one.
All right, here's our last one.
Okay.
This is called. Actually, no. I'm gonna find a funnier name.
That one wasn't funny enough.
What
was
if
the
that was
not
like the
funny
best
name?
song I've ever heard? That
Sorry,
almost
so
got
they're
played
just
there?
not gonna
Yeah.
get their first play ever.
Wow, I'm God in this.
Can you read their title so if someone else wants to listen to it for their
I think
first
it's
play?
gone
It's
forever.
gone.
Oh.
'Cause
I'll
just
have to
refresh
skip
the
through all the
page.
other 60,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can.
All right, this song is called "I'm Your Boogeyman"
Nice.
Oh.
by Aristocrat. The album artwork is a woman, and it is framed so it's the top of her nose to her mid chest. She's wearing red lipstick, long dark hair.
I think it's gonna be like a punk sort of palette. Yeah, that's about it.
Sure.
Punk rock.
I think it's gonna be like disco. Like it kind of gives me
Your
like
Boogeyman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna have like chic like vibes. Like you know that like band Chic. They do like Le Freak. Like
Yeah.
Freak out. I think it's gonna have like that kind of vibe.
Ooh.
A lot of the album artwork for that kind of stuff is more like kind of just attractive people like on the cover kind of vibes. So I'm gonna go with that. Yeah.
I was thinking like Louis Armstrong jazz vibes.
Let's find out. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna give a little to Austin for it being kind of funky.
it's got the wall.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
guitar was a little funky.
Yeah, the guitar
but
was-
not all that
Definitely.
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was also a little punk rocky. What did
Yeah.
you say, Sarah? Did
I
you get
said Louis Armstrong jazz.
think
I
you're
am
very
not.
far from it.
Hold on,
the
let me
money.
listen to how they say boogeyman. Do they say it like Louis Armstrong? Boogeyman. That's Louis right there.
voice.
Yeah.
Are you gonna give me a point for that?
I can't do a good Louis. Can anyone
They
do a
used
good Louis?
threesome right there.
They used
So-
AI to create a Louis Armstrong style vocal for that one. So
Yeah,
I
that
think
was-
you got it, Sarah. You nailed it.
Sure. Hey, I'll take whatever you're throwing my way.
That's
Wow.
a unique song. I am saving it, and I'm adding it to my favorites.
Yeah.
It's a good for a Halloween playlist.
Yeah.
The first thought that came to my head, I think there's a song in Nightmare Before Christmas that's like,
Oh.
I'm your boogeyman. Wow.
Maybe
I wonder if
that's
it's a
why
cover.
I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who won. You all did for helping
There was no scripting. Nice.
helping us get some plays on these forgetified, Spotified, Describified tracks.
Do
So-
we win royalties if this podcast takes off that you guys are going to spin off? Like, can that be our price? No.
Oh,
Yeah,
If Album
is-
or Breeze takes off. You
Yeah.
both can have like an
Like
associate
2%.
producer credit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
That
definitely
works.
get royalties on Describify, that spin-off podcast when it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
out.
Definitely.
That's nice.
And Zach, you're going to be streaming both Big Weather and Album or Brews. Just double checking.
On Forgetify.
Just you said you would stream whoever won.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll have to stream both of them again.
Awesome. The podcast that you record.
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything else on Spotify.
Nice.
Let's take 5
Yeah.
and wait for our beers to get colder. I
Gorgeous.
don't want to wait for
For my beer to get colder.
Love it.
All right, we're back, folks, talking about Coldplay on a cold day.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fall time.
it is fall time.
Before we get too far into the track list, tell us a little more history about this record with you guys and maybe how it influences you, why you picked it out of all the plethora of other influences and artists you like.
I think I forgot. I think the way that we got to picking it was just like we really didn't want to pick Wilco. I think because it seemed kind of on the nose.
Yeah, and we have that long story on Wilco anyway, so you
Yeah.
don't want
Right.
to get like, I'm filing a restraining order against us. All right, calm down.
And
I
for
mean, I would
me-
be honored if Jeff
Yeah.
Judy was like,
Honestly,
don't
at
go
least he would.
leave.
At least he would notice me. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, like this record is kind of like it's one. I think Coldplay is kind of one of those bands. I think that's sort of lumped in with like Nickelbacks and stuff of the world, where people
Mhm,
just say that they're
definitely.
bad.
What did
And
you
in-
say, Sarah, earlier?
Well, I said that, and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but Coldplay does make me think of my mom.
And
Me
was,
too,
it was
me too.
Maroon 5.
It
got
makes me
lumped
feel
in.
very
Okay, yeah.
U2, Maroon 5,
Yeah.
which I don't think are inherently bad.
Yeah.
But there is kind of a like maybe in the scenes that we run in, like it's mainstream, so it's bad.
Yeah, and
for
that's
sure,
that's
yeah.
sort of, I think we had that conversation,
Yeah.
and like I think that way about Coldplay for the most part, but I can't help but love this album so
Yeah.
much. You know, like there's a ton of nostalgia for it. For me, it reminds me of my mom too. But like,
Yeah.
it's just, I think, honestly, I think it's, and I think they've admitted to this. It's sort of they use this sort of like OK Computer by Radiohead sound palette, but just make songs that are like, oh, don't be anxious. Don't be like, everything's all right. Everything's not lost. And love is like good and all this kind of stuff. And it's like such a positive, sweet vibe that I really love. So
Yeah, it is kind of like a big warm blanket of the guitar
Yeah,
players, like
Very
whammy.
cozy.
Yeah.
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 I agree. I could go on and on, but I mean, that's like kind of the gist of it is like, I definitely feel like coming up, playing in bands and stuff, it was cool to like Radiohead. It was not cool to like Coldplay, even though early Coldplay sounded so much like Radiohead that it was like absurd, like sound palette wise. I mean, yeah, you could be like, oh, that's a shame they're ripping it off, but it's like, aren't we then like going and trying to make Radiohead songs? So then if we were really successful, would people hate us too? It's like
Yeah.
that. So I sort of like it as a debut album, and I found it oddly kind of inspiring that it's like, and I like that they own that too. Like there's a lot of bands, like, not to pick on, you know, any in particular, but like that band like Greta Van Fleet, where like they dress like Led Zeppelin, they have the exact same drum
We shit on
set
Greta Van
up.
Fleet a lot
And
on this
then,
show. It is
yeah,
welcome.
and it's like, and that's actually fine. The part where they go wrong is that they deny that influence. I think it's okay to like accept your influences. Like, you know, we're
Sure.
obviously very influenced by like Wilco and stuff. Like we talk about them a lot. It would be absurd to like be influenced by a band and then like deny it and stuff. So I think it's sort of this admittance of like, we're not cool, we're not experienced, we didn't just like come out of nowhere. Like we have this, you know, these influences and stuff, and we haven't found our sound yet. It's the sound of a band like trying to sort of find more of their sound. And you could argue they never really did, like some in some's, you know, case, but I don't know. And I agree, like Coldplay like reminds you of your family and stuff. Like even that like album cover, like I think we had like a globe in my living room and stuff.
yeah.
And like I remember I used to just sit on the front porch of our house and like watch the rain and stuff like that. And this album feels very much like, you know, sitting, you know, in your parents' house and watching the rain and stuff like that. It's very nostalgic for me personally. I picked up the album at like a thrift store. I think I was with my mom at the time, and for like $2. I only knew like Yellow because they played it on XRT and stuff here growing up.
Yeah.
And then I listened to the rest, and I was like, this is a really beautiful album. Like Coldplay, you know, gets a lot of shit for being like successful, and I guess that's like the thing is like I grew up with a lot of music that my parents introduced me to. Some that's deemed like kind of cool in the band circle. You know, my mom like The Cure and the Smiths and like some of those bands that are like cool to like, and she even liked Radiohead. But I think, yeah, you mentioned like U2. My dad had like every U2 CD, Coldplay, like, you know, the stuff that's like not cool. It's like, but then when you really strip it back and like if you know, did what we did with that game where you know nothing about the artist, if you just listened to that music, you'd be like, oh, this is good musically.
solid, yeah.
But there's so many like negative connotations around like the success that they've reached.
that have
and
nothing
stuff.
to do with the music.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think that's like the biggest thing for me is that like in my music and in our music and stuff, like I just want it to be good. Like I don't care if it's like cool. I don't care if it has like that allure to it. I'm not like the marketing expert that's gonna add the like mystery to it and stuff. Sometimes it's just overtly there. It's like maybe your influences are pretty overtly there, and like what's wrong with that? Like you're just
Yeah.
trying to make the best music you can, and you're not trying to be like above, you know, other artists and stuff. I think the other thing that inspired me too is like just listening to your guys' podcast. I know someone did like Avril Lavigne, like Let Go. People have done like Phoenix, which is like a pop record. It's like I think there's almost this resurgence of like it's cool to just like be honest about what you were
Yeah.
actually
Just like what
listening
you
to.
like,
Like it's
yeah.
very fun to be like, oh, I was listening to like Brian Eno ambient music. It's like, no, man, you were just listening to U2 and like he worked
Right.
on that. Like, but like, and that's cool. Those things need each other. Like a little
Yeah.
bit of like, and I think that's one of the things that like our group tries to do is like, you know, we've got someone like Jack playing pedal steel that like can make all of this like crazy cool atmospheric stuff that like, you know, I would never listen to 45 minutes of just like droney pedal like stuff on the
Yeah.
pedal steel. But
Jack
like
would.
some of the bridges, yeah, but like some of the, but he can make a boring ass pop song that I've written that like only has, you know, doesn't even have a bridge, and he can like come in and like reimagine that and like add that element to it. And that's very like true to the music that I grew up in. Like those things need each other. Like a corny, like overly pop record that has all the like conventional hooks, but it like needs that something. And I feel like this album is a little like that, or U2 is a little like that. And that's kind of what I grew up on personally. So I think that's always going to be subliminally in what I write.
Totally.
Very
Totally.
cool. Very
And I
cool.
feel like the show, like our show in particular, I feel like I equally appreciate for every like underscores or drug church or like very like
niche.
kind of niche
Uh-huh.
thing that we talk about, which I'm thankful for and love being able to now discover and know about. I'm also thankful for the Avril Lavignes and the Phoenixes
definitely,
and the
yeah.
Walk the Moons.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I am glad that we are killing the part of ourselves that cringes,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah, it's cool
sure.
to like popular things.
It is cool.
Yeah.
They're popular
Sometimes that's
for a
popular.
reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's cool to be like, to kind of know why it might be popular, to know sort of why people might flock to it. Because I feel like there is also this connotation of like, oh, you fucking sheeple, you like Coldplay, and I think you just like it because Spotify like pushed it to you. But if you're like, no, like I vibe with this and this and this, like it's
Yeah.
actually pretty good. I think that's very special. And then it's like, well, you know, it's not popularity, you know, in a baseless way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I think it earned 1 billion listens. Like
Gee.
some of these
Yeah,
songs, like
and-
it's
I think also what's helping too is we look back at probably on, you know, we were talking about AI a little bit in and
Yeah.
out of our breaks. Some of it will probably be in this and some won't. But like I think that's the thing too, is like it's pop music, but it's music that just got popular or was
Right.
marketed well, or, you know, maybe people really were drawn to the album cover, what have you. But it's not like manufactured like Blueprint kind of music. Yeah, maybe they were influenced by another band that was successful, but I think you could say, you know, even if it does sound a lot like Radiohead was definitely not like, oh, we should name a song something that would show up in the algorithm. I mean, you know,
Right.
first of all, like the business has changed and stuff, but even just back then, I think like less artists were concerned with that kind of stuff. Like, oh, I should write a song about this because it might show up in like a TikTok algorithm or something. You know, people like joke about that kind of stuff, but I think it's made it easier to even appreciate what pop music was just like 20 years ago, because
Yeah.
now pop music is even more formulaic than it used to be. It was like, remember a time where we used to look back and be like, this is so formulaic and so unoriginal, but at least it was actual people playing the instruments, and it wasn't like they, you know, typed in a chord progression into, you know, an AI tool or something like that and, you know, came back with a song. Like so I think that's given it a lens to like come back and appreciate it differently too.
Definitely.
yeah. As a podcast that talks about albums in their entirety, I couldn't imagine like crafting music so like 6 seconds of it is catchy enough to
No,
to make it on the
crazy
A lot of artists struggle
part.
with that,
Yeah.
I think about that in some of my songs, like, you know, the title track on our album, like, or, you know, I guess that's back when it was, maybe we should provide that context too. Like what we have on Spotify, and like more stuff's coming. We're planning to record some stuff. Like if you've seen us live, definitely come out and check it out, because you're missing like an entire half of the music that Quinn has written kind of since we've sort of merged and it's become more of a band than a solo project. But when I was making the solo project stuff that's currently on Spotify, some of which we still do and some that we don't, the song like Square Dancing has like kind of a long, just like keyboard intro. And I listen to it sometimes. I'm like, man, what if someone turned this on and was like, oh, is this just going to be like, you know, like what we were doing in that segment? Like, oh, this is just going to be someone playing like Wurlitzer and GarageBand and like no vocals come in, nothing else comes in. And like I do sometimes like regret like, oh, maybe I should have made that intro a little shorter, like did something to more hint that more was coming. And so yeah, it is weird that it gets you thinking that way, because back when you were a kid and you were just making music for fun and stuff, you never had those
yeah,
thoughts
you
in the
never
back of
thought
your
about
head.
like the algorithm or like the, you know. Yeah, I think I forget Rick Rubin talks a lot about how like you should not ever think about the music you make as the like as the
That's
consumer.
good to hear, because
Yeah,
I sometimes
because
wonder
you
if
could
he
go
does,
crazy.
Oh,
with all
totally.
you should just yeah.
Yeah, he says something like the consumer is last. for
Yeah,
a reason, or
uh-huh.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So yeah, don't panic too much about that. Here's track number 1. Man, this instantly sounds like Coldplay. You hear like
Yeah.
a second of it and like, oh, I'm listening to Coldplay.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. It's great. This is one of the best songs on here, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know Coldplay like from the radio mostly growing up. And there's
Same.
something kind of special about being this millennial age we are and like experiencing the radio that like younger people I don't think experience the same way.
Uh-huh.
So like this instantly makes me think of like being in a car ride
It's always a car ride.
Like
Yeah,
yes.
I instantly like in a car ride to a grocery store or to church. Or,
I'm
like,
in
to
a
and
car
from
ride
school.
to church.
Yeah.
Yes. Or like my mom is putting it on while she makes me like dust surfaces. 'Cause she would like put on the radio for like
Yeah.
a cleaning day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is that a good memory or like a kind
It's
of
a good
trauma?
memory. It's a
Okay.
good memory. Because it's usually, if it was like a deep cleaning day, there was going to be like a party or something happening
okay.
soon.
Nice.
Perhaps a holiday get together.
All my cleaning memories are just deeply traumatic.
Oh no.
Oh no! You should have listened to more Coldplay.
Yeah. Mine are pretty chill. Yeah.
Can we play a little of that? Or do I still have Ox? I still have.
You have, yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this. Zach, take the wheel.
Ooh.
Play some Coldplay for us.
Bones sinking like stones.
You're just like, oh, that's Coldplay. It's like a nice acoustic guitar and like.
Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done for. And we live in a beautiful world.
Like, what a good can opener.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
9.7 out of 10 can opener.
Can opener.
Have you heard that? You've heard.
I've never heard that term.
Never
but I
heard that
love it.
phrase.
We've said it on air many times.
And it's not because of the alcohol. It's because
You just
we
say a
record
lot of
so
things
much
on air.
goddamn content. After a recording session, genuinely, I probably black out like 80% of what we've said into the mics.
Oh,
Just
that's
repress
good.
it.
Yeah.
Keep it down. Yeah,
It's
can-
like in there,
yeah.
but
There's like playlists of like can openers, like good first tracks on an album.
oh, yeah. I feel like I attribute so much of the like quintessential, like quote unquote Coldplay sound to Chris Martin's vocals
Yes. Mhm.
specifically.
Absolutely.
Like it's just so distinct. So
Yeah.
when you hear him, you're like, oh, I know exactly where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of similarities to the what's the Kid A band?
Oh. Well, Radiohead?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you take all that? A lot of similarities.
Yeah, see, this is exactly the type of credibility that will get your podcast canceled. Like, you don't know Radiohead. See, like, we're all pretending like we like really listen to Radiohead constantly. But when's the last time anyone listened to all of Kid A? Like, there's a song that's like all harp. It's like that's tight, but like no one's listening to
that was
that.
just
Like
me having
while
a
they're
brain
on
fart.
the bus, like going to work. It's like no one's like, let me put on that all harp track by Radiohead. It's like, yeah, like you're listening to it, but it's more like watching a movie. Like, so like
Yeah.
as you get older, I think you come back to some of this kind of music where it's like, this is like commuting music or
Yeah.
like looking at raindrops roll down the window in the car kind of music. It's like, there's, you know, those types of albums where it's like, you know, you get a little high or you have a beer and you like, you put it on and you sit on your couch and you listen. Like, that's what you're doing. It's like the main thing. But I think as you get a little older, it's like that kind of stuff becomes harder to like
Make
absorb.
time for.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
hard to just like enjoy a record. Like when you were a kid, you could do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like I gotta just keep scrolling my thumb on this TikTok app.
My
Or-
attention span is
Yeah, it's
it's
true.
it's like
Fucked.
lost. You gotta press the button every 186 minutes.
for like a sugar cube or like apes in a fucking psych experiment.
I just recently started reading again for the first time in such a long
that's
time.
Oh, nice.
Same.
Like, I think in the past 3 years I've read maybe 2 books. You know, like
Yep.
which before that it was like I identified as a reader.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I think it's because it's just so it's hard to sit down and do one thing anymore,
Yeah.
including listening to an album.
Do you think it helps though? Like getting back into reading books has helped your attention span? Because I think it's helped mine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Speaking of reading, have you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
fuck no.
That's a good one. Have you guys read it?
No.
I haven't, but it sounds interesting.
Do you like
seen the
sci-fi?
movie.
I've watched Spaceballs, but I've never seen
It's pretty close to Spaceballs. No, oh, actually, kind of. It's like humorous, satirical sci-fi. But do you guys know that the track "Don't Panic" is in reference to a quote from?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Tell me
That's
more.
awesome. Yeah.
Oh no,
I'm
it's
sweaty.
just the name of one of the books because there's like 6 of them.
Don't Panic is the name of
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Or there's a quote somewhere too. I can't find it right now.
Awesome. Great.
So that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
They're really good books if you haven't read them.
I should.
I should check them out, honestly. That's probably something I'd be more likely to get into. I've always struggled to like focus on a book. And and the like social media era scrolling thing has definitely made it worse, but I've always like struggled to focus. And the thing with reading that I've always found really interesting is like you start getting this description, but it unfolds so slowly that like you get a different description in your brain, which I think is interesting. It's like someone was describing this room, and then you find out like 12 pages in that it has plants, and you're like, oh, I didn't think it had any plants. So that's such an interesting, interesting like slow burn to it that I've always struggled with and stuff. But yeah, and again, not to just feel like we're on here like plugging Jeff Tweedy and Wilco, but he writes a really his autobiography is really like validating in that, and I've even applied this on reading his whole book because I haven't made it all the way through yet. I've been reading it in pretty small pieces, but he kind of says like, reading is like really inspiring, but it's like it's not always about like finishing books. It's like finding that like one quote in it or something and getting kind of the inspiration you need and stuff, and then like pop into a different one, and maybe you have 3 going on at once and you're like not finishing them all and stuff. And that's something I more relate to. Similar with albums is like I don't always make it through the whole album, but like I stumble on that one track that really gets me, and then I just want to hear that 100 times or and then I think it would pair well with this totally different artist or this other song by this artist that's not on that album or something, and then just kind of like cutting things up that way.
It is cool to kind of build up your internal like repertoire, your internal like, not to be annoying, but like Pinterest mood board of art I like,
and like playlist form, you mean?
It's like you have this little catalog in your brain of this quote from this book, and also like this painting you saw at the Art Institute, and this couple of songs, and you're like, I vibe with all of this.
For sure.
Oh God, when you think about art, it really almost like gives you a little shiver. Track number 2. Burr. Track number 2 is called
Coldplay.
Shiver, and
Did they get a shiver because their play is cold?
Girl, they might have. They might have. This one is also, I feel like this whole album is like so chill.
Yes.
And the song gets a little bit waltzy, which I like.
A lot of their stuff does. A lot of it's in like 6/8, which I like honestly is a big influence on me. Like whether it's like Motown or doo-wop, like kind of like soul music that uses that, or just like anything like even the song like Lover by Taylor Swift, like going back to that like old school like tried and true like waltz just adds an immediate like romance to something that I think is really cool.
6/8 is the superior.
It's honestly great. I'm not a big like odd time signatures person. Quinn, I know you're a big like math rock guy, and I like it in doses and stuff, but like 6/8's the one outside of like 4/4 that I like use fairly frequently and
very effective.
I heard 3/4, which is kind of 6/8, is like the time signature of the heartbeat, which is interesting. So it's like doop 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 doop,
like
doop,
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
Maybe that's why we love it so much.
That makes sense. I've never heard that, but that's really cool.
That's kind of neat. I'm like feeling my heartbeat right now, and I can't stop feeling it.
Just dead air for like 45 minutes.
Reduce your fractions.
But this is another example of like the crazy head voice that he does.
Yeah,
and he usually brings it in during the chorus and goes back down during the verse, which like maybe is like a pretty common thing to do. Like we were talking about how like it's a pop song, but like he does it so well. I don't care if it's a popular thing to do.
Yeah, speak your truth.
Did you want me to change? Well, I changed for good. And I want you to know that you'll always get your way. I wanted to say, don't you shiver?
Like, fuck, that makes you feel something, right?
Yeah. Yum.
Incredible, honestly. Like it's
a great
vocals are incredible.
Yeah.
And I love the like, obviously as one might guess, listening to this, like since we chose Coldplay as our album, like I'm not a big like distortion person, but I love like a guitar like teetering on the edge of distortion, but it's not like abrasive on your ears. It's just a little like biting, like
Yeah.
sort of like, honestly, not to do too many tie-ins, but sort
No,
of like a
this is
beer. Like it
perfect.
has like sort of a bite on it, but like it's not overtly like, you know, it's an aftertaste, I guess, kind of more. of a
It's like
bite
the
to it.
little something
Yeah.
something of guitar tone.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. That's I
That's
like
gorgeous.
That's great. Really,
Come on.
it's there. Hold on.
I think I know what you're trying to do. Go for it.
Really sparks a fire in you, songwriting wise, right? Really.
That's track number 4. Track number 3 is called Spies.
Fuck. No, I don't know what the tie I was going for.
You really wanted to hear the bridge in Spies, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny because
Yeah.
I can't picture that, so I'd love to hear that.
It's
and then
like
Quinn
this
take us through.
soaring, beautiful bridge.
If we don't hide here, they're gonna find us. And if we don't hide now, they're gonna catch us where we sleep. And if we don't hide here, they're gonna find
Yeah.
That is really great.
Delicious.
Good bridges are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I think one sort of constant, like, critique of Coldplay and this album is that it's, like, maybe safe or something, or, like, because they're getting their inspiration from Radiohead and they're making love songs and stuff like that. But, like you were saying, like, it's just powerful, even if it's
Yeah.
been done when, like, Chris Martin just has such an incredible voice. His falsetto is really good, and the backup vocals in that thing were really sweet. Yeah, that was an intense one.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
really good.
it's funny that like relative, because we know radio, because I think that's sometimes what happens. You get this band that's like not safe, and then artists that sound like that band are then playing it safe. But like, there's nothing safe about like singing a falsetto. Like, there's nothing more embarrassing than like trying to hit a note that high and your voice cracking. So I think it's like one of the least safe things you could do. Like, it's safe
Sure.
in that like when you can pull it off, everybody loves it and they feel something because you should. It's like somebody, you know, it's like, I don't know, I guess it would be like putting like, you know, the perfect like first kiss scene in a movie. It's like, oh, it's safe. Every scene does it. But it's like, it resonates with us though. And like that part's not safe. And it's hard to like get there. Like, it's hard to get up there and sing like that. So of course it's safe because like when you see something excellent, you know, you're going to resonate with it. So it's, some people will look at that as like, oh, that's cheap in a way that like he knows when he goes to that register, it's going to send that little, you know, shiver, not to do too much of a callback, like on your skin. But like it does because it's challenging to do. And it's something that resonates with us. Like, that's somebody singing as high as they can possibly sing. And that's challenging and risky. And like, even though other artists might do that too, like that's much more risky than like a lot of other vocals, you know, where you're just kind of playing it in your own like normal register. That's really someone stepping out of their comfort zone, which I like.
I think that's really interesting to point out because, yeah, there is totally sometimes that reception of like, well, we've seen a really good kiss scene in a movie. So like you doing a really good kiss scene is playing it safe. But also, like, how many times have we watched a movie where the first kiss is like
There's
not
no chemistry
great?
there.
There's no chemistry, and like someone's dentures fall out, and someone else poops their pants, and it's like not quite it. So I think that's a really good point. Is like doing the good thing, like maybe the textbook good thing, really well. Is a challenge in and of itself to kind of measure up, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it's something that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Quinn, but, like, we try to get, or at least my instinct has been, like, a falsetto is scary. Like, I started out making this music, like, doing it by myself in my bedroom, super embarrassed, kind of developed this, like, really whispery style. Like, you know, when I was living at home, didn't want my parents to hear me. When I was living with roommates, didn't want them to hear me. But there's something awesome about, like, playing in this group with all of you. Like, Quinn has a like fantastic falsetto. He has this song called Thaw that we'll probably record very soon where like he really gets up there and it like immediately like resonated with me like the day I came over and he was showing me it. And then I kind of tell this story sometimes too, like at shows when I'm meeting, you know, kind of friends of my bandmates that I'm still getting to know. But like Wynn's voice is incredible. Like the heights that Wynn can get to, like their voice is so beautiful that like, and it was so funny. Like Wynn just kind of like shyly, like, you know, kind of stumbled into being like, oh, I can like sing a little too. And it's almost like that scene in like School of Rock where like you find out that one woman has the voice of like Aretha Franklin. She, you know, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, I can sing a little too. Maybe I can do some like harmonies and stuff. And then like now it like makes the group. Like I think Wynn's probably more valuable to the band than me. Like they can sing exactly how I wish I could sing. And it just like, it's like having an army of like vulnerable people behind you. Like, so it's so empowering.
Wynn came into the group because they walked into the practice space when Jack and Austin and I were playing, and Jack went, Wynn, you should be the bassist of this. And then Wynn said, okay.
Yeah.
And it was just
Team
that
player.
like, yeah, just the last person to join, but has become like really integral.
I think, absolutely. Yeah. And like
They're an amazing musician. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. Like Wynn can play every instrument. And they just do everything the way that I like wish I could do it. Like I can't play bass, so I did a lot of the like keyboard part. Like I did bass like on keyboard for like the EP that I've got on Spotify, and like my bass like influences seem to be really similar. Like Wynn does an awesome job of like always playing like to the vocal, which I've always loved in music. Like, you know, I grew up playing drums. I always loved like Keith Moon's drumming and like how he just drums to the vocals. Like if the vocal does a thing, he does a fill that matches it. Or I love like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, like the bass player on that, like James Jamerson, just the bass is all over the place. And it's like trailing the vocal. But then what you kind of learn is like that gives you the confidence to sing that falsetto because you have that lower register, like
It's
adding
just so
some oomph
underneath,
to it. Yeah, so that I, you know, can't imagine a time like before having Wynn in the group. It's like it just accentuates like exactly what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me so much more confident in something that I'm not confident in. Yeah.
Nice. Speaking of great bass players, how do you guys feel about Coldplay's bass player?
I really love Coldplay's bass player.
Do you know his name? It's so good. This is
It's Guy Berryman.
this guy was born to be a bass
That's
player.
such a bass player name.
Berryman.
Yeah.
The best prank phone call name.
Like that man was born with a bass guitar in his hand.
Yeah.
It's just like it almost looks like just you're filling in any generic bass player. It's like just guy that'll
Berryman.
do it. And it's like no, that's his actual name. We already
Bass
have the
player
bass
name generator.
Yeah, when you said Guy Berryman, I thought you were kidding, but that's actually
No, that's really
No,
it.
that's actually
that's
it.
insane.
Yeah, on the walk here, I was trying to remember. It's funny because you do think of Coldplay as like just the Chris Martin show, but then if you watch like an interview, he's extremely humble, and I think he does a great job. And they do a great job of going like he's kind of the guy we follow him. He's very much our leader, but it's not in like a narcissistic way. Like I think, you know, you mentioned like U2, like that music kind of similarly is like this big stadium, like grandiose music and stuff. And I think, you know, a lot of people rightfully maybe will like pick on Bono and stuff for being this very like almost caricature of a front man at times. But like Chris Martin's not really that. He's kind of just a more shy, like kind of guy, and he credits his bandmates like all the time, and they add some like incredible like backing vocals and like texture to the music. Like there's, you know, it's one of the few bands where I can still kind of like name everybody in it. And the average person would be like, oh, you know, like those guys don't really matter. They could fill in any old guy. And it's
I
like,
don't think so.
No.
yeah, when you're young, sometimes, when you're young, sometimes you think like, oh, like that drummer's not playing like incredible chops. Like they're not good. It's like, well, yeah, like, but Will sings incredible backing vocals while he's playing that. And that's what suits the music. Like, he doesn't need to be like playing this like, you know, insane complicated fill and stuff. Like, so I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten to even appreciate that too, that like, you know, these guys are probably a lot better than what they're showing too. They're just really serving the music, and I've tried to do that.
So let's listen to Guy Berryman a little bit on track number 4, Sparks. Just this intro, like just
So great.
Beautiful song.
Best song
so
on here, I
good.
think. Yeah.
Like, sorry, guitar players, but that acoustic line is nothing without that bass line underneath it.
It's true. It's true. That bass line
Barrington
is
killed it.
fantastic.
It
And like,
pulls you into it so hard.
It's hypnotic, yeah. And like, I don't know. I guess I just everything about that track is the one I come back to. Like, we sat down kind of saying like we kind of went through albums that we both listened to, and you know, there's a lot of stuff we really like that didn't feel that on the nose for the actual type of music that we're making, like with Big Weather. But like for this, I guess I'm even as I'm like here, maybe it's just the Lagunitas Island beats talking, but like I swear I haven't really like done my due diligence like prepping for this, but you forget how much like subliminally is there. Like even just the like piano sounds and like the really reverby piano, like you mentioned you were listening to like that track Ashland, like that, even that I like kind of wanted to sound like, I guess I didn't even know it at the time, but wanted it to sort of sound like the piano on this track and like throughout this album. Like there's just a lot of subliminal like instinctive stuff from this album that I think I've picked up even when I'm not going for that, even when I'm doing like a country thing or like a bedroom pop thing. Like there's the Coldplay stuff will always kind of like come out. I think it's just one of your like wheelhouse natural things that becomes part of you, which maybe you'd say like for you, Quinn, is like the Strokes or something like that. Or like there's certain, or even like you wrote a song the other day that felt like very Radiohead, and like I was like, that chord progression's like something I would never come up with, but it sounds so familiar. And you were like, because I think it's like maybe like a Radiohead type of an influence or something. Like it's cool when you are even going for a totally different sound, but you stumble into like kind of like your sort of like belief system of like go to, you know, I guess tropes wouldn't be the right word, but just kind of like your
the things that have like kind of you've absorbed and you like
you can't get them out of you
even knowing.
How'd you guys feel about the production, like on this song, but like in the album in general too?
I love it. I think it's awesome. It sounds so good.
Yeah,
it's very well done.
It's very well done.
I think Ken Nelson produced all but one song on this record.
Which one do you know?
Yes, I do. I'll tell you when we get to it.
Okay.
Cool. And it's just phenomenal, like how well everything fits and sits on top of each other.
Yeah.
It's so clear. There's like, I don't know how it was done, but there's just like this like kind of sparkle and shimmer to everything. Like, the drums are just so like, I don't know, clear and punchy, but not like abrasive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything is like crisp. Yeah. Like you sort of said, Sarah.
To it.
Yeah, it's a fall kind of
softness to it, but not like blurry. Like soft, like a blanket.
Yeah.
It's very yellow.
There's like a coarseness to it, but like not rough. Like it's like just subtly like
it's coarse like cookie dough.
I could see that.
That's good.
Versus like an exfoliating salt scrub.
I think it's also a lesson too, and just like I'm, you know, the album I have on Spotify, like we're discussing now that we want to get, you know, an actual like, you know, producer to record us and not do it on a laptop and stuff. But I think one of the like biggest lessons I've learned in the era that I'm hopefully now leaving behind as of, you know, we've kind of got more of a group going here and some songs that I haven't written and it's becoming more of a band, is that just like one of the biggest things I've learned, like the best like workarounds, and when you listen to like a really old like 70s track and you're like, how does this sound so good, but they don't have the technology we have? Some of it's just picking instruments that are in a like different register. So it occurs naturally. It's like naturally EQ'd. Like an acoustic guitar sits in a totally different spot than a bass does. And that's why the bass can come out so much in that song, or you know, tuning the drums like up high on like a jazz record or something. It's like that's what makes the drums cut through if you don't have enough mics. Like tuning your toms really high will help them pick it up. So like there's a lot of just like back to basics kind of sound of this, where like it is produced really well and it's made in a studio and it does sound amazing, but some of it is like credit like the band too, that it's like they're not stepping on each other's like frequencies and they know where to be and stuff.
It just kind of sounds like how it would sound.
Yeah,
like it just makes sense.
It just sounds like a band like at their best day of playing a track, which I think is something I always try to go for.
Which is a cool thing. We're talking about an album that came out in 2000, so it was presumably recorded in 99, right?
Yeah.
It's like sounds so 90s looking back at it now, but like when I was a kid listening to this song, did not sound like the 90s. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way?
Sounded like the 2000s.
It sounds like the 2000s for sure. Even today, listening to Yellow, like,
I think there's a nostalgia for that era though, where like you mentioned the radio. I think that's more than reviewing like a whole record. Like I grew up, here in like the near Chicago suburbs, like Oak Park, so we're definitely in range. Actually, the old like XRT studio used to be down the street from my high school back in the 70s. My dad would tell me, and we grew up listening to that radio station. And there's something about just like getting kind of a smattering of like different tracks and stuff like that that's kind of been sort of formative to where my kind of taste in music comes from. But I think this is an example of like one of those albums where like, do you know that type of song where you started hearing it on the radio as a kid and you're like, that's got to be like from my parents' generation or something. I can't remember a time where I didn't hear that song. And then you look at like kind of the release date of it and you're like, that's sort of like the age where I would have begun to form memories.
Yeah.
So there was a period where I existed and this song didn't, but I don't have any recollection of that period. So this album's sort of like that, where it's like, you probably, I don't know, I'm not a child psychologist or something, but like you probably only start having memories when you're like 4 or 5 years old. And if this album comes out, I think I was 7 when it came out. So it's like, it is one of the like first things you start, like you can't really remember a time where Yellow wasn't on the radio because because it's one of your first memories.
Totally.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah. All right, let's hear the intro bit, because you got it. We can't not hear it.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to step on this moment. I just really have to pee.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly.
Cameron's flush in the middle of Yellow. Do it, you coward. We're just keeping the toilet flush in there. We're not gonna. We're just gonna listen to the intro. We just took a potty break, but you, the listener, just heard toilet flush and now you're back. Fuck, this is so good. We'll play more, but that doesn't sound like 90s rock to you guys?
Is this the one that's not produced by
No.
what's his face?
This is still the same producer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is there one track that's not?
There's one track,
I'm trying to figure it out. It does.
I've got a theory that like the 90s actually lasted till like 2008 when the iPhone was invented.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
yeah.
it was all 90s until then, and then
the-
it was something else.
At the time, like, I mean, we all lived during it. Like, no one called it like a different thing. And like, no one, I guess you could say the 2000s and 10s, like, no one really was like, we're in the 10s now. Like,
Yeah.
Right,
I think the decade thing was really nice in the 80s and 90s. But I remember even my parents would tell me, like, and we said we wouldn't get on tangents, but this will be quick. That like a lot of what did that is like, like companies would make like best of the 80s, best of the 90s. Even that happened later. Like they were like, we didn't talk about it as much like that. There's a lot of people that would say like, 80s music started in like 78 or, if you
That's
look back on
It
it.
takes a little
So
bit
definitely,
for it to
yeah.
settle.
In
Yeah.
2000, it's not like you flip a switch and it's like, this is the next new thing.
Yeah.
Which is the other like thing that makes me sympathize with this album is like, yeah, it is going to sound like a 90s band because there are no 2000s bands yet. It's 2000. How
Right.
could there be
Yeah.
any 2000s
There's no
bands?
blueprint.
This was made in the 90s, like
So,
late 90s.
so to tie it into the 90s, do you guys know why this song is called Yellow? And it's the most 90s
I
reason
do.
you can think of.
I do. Yeah. So I heard that they wrote this song. This was one of those like, it's always great to hear like when like the lead single is like a song they wrote while they were doing all the other songs, because then you're like, what are you guys even here for? Like you're missing your single. But I think they wrote this one like in the studio or around the time they were recording the other tracks, and they needed a title, and he like saw the Yellow Pages and like named it after that, right?
Yeah, there was a phrase he had look at the stars, look how they shine for you. He had some of that. But he didn't have the last line, and he had just happened to look at the Yellow Pages. And so he says here, in an alternate universe, I could have looked at Playboy. There's a line there. Could have been Playboy.
Yeah, that would be
So
funny.
the fact that I haven't seen a Yellow
And maybe-
Pages in 15 years.
That would have been a much worse song. If you picked up a Playboy
Yeah.
magazine, I think.
For
I
sure.
agree.
Really beautiful song. Anything that particularly stands out to you guys?
I guess like this one is obviously the most memorable, and you hear it on the radio and stuff. But like the big thing for me is this is another example of that like fringing on like distortion, but not kind of vibe. Like it's really rocking and it's kind of straining like sort of guitar sound, but it's not like overtly distortion. And I still really like that sound. I also really love the super open like snare sound.
Yeah.
I've really love like "Soak Up the Sun" by Sheryl Crow, and it's got that like
Yes.
big like open snare crack. Also
Yeah.
very indicative of like the early 2000s, late 90s kind of sound. So I agree. Yeah, very 90s, early 2000s sound.
Yeah, I think
Making
the
a crack.
writing on it's really great. You said this was written in the studio. Which
It's
is-
been a while since I've read about it, but I heard that like he wrote this song like they were taking breaks at the studio and like going out at night and looking at the stars and like how I don't know if they smoke or
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but like going out for like kind of effectively what would be like a smoke break just to get a break from being in the studio. And he wrote this song sort of about like that moment, and I think that's sort of cool too. That there's I don't know what it's really about, or I imagine it's a lot of like ad lib stuff because they made it last minute. But I think it's more about a feeling that you can't pin down, which is
Yeah.
maybe this whole album in general. But it sort of has that vibe of like, you know, maybe it would be corny to write about like the beauty or excitement of like recording your debut album. But I imagine that's inspiring. It feels dumb to like write a song about writing music, but it is really like imagine how awesome that must have been to be like in the studio working on these other tracks and then like, you know, taking a moment to just be like, this is beautiful. How lucky am I that I get to do this? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Love that.
definitely feels like that.
It does feel like lyrically, a lot of Coldplay's stuff is like kind of like simultaneously like several steps removed. Like a lot of people could listen to this music and be like, I totally get that feeling. But then there's also this sort of hidden undercurrent of like, but it's about me. I don't know. I when I think of like a Coldplay chorus, it's very like the world is beautiful and everything is so special and just look at the way it is. And like that's kind of the lyrical content
Yeah.
of it. It's very like broad.
I have a funny story of my friend Dylan. He was like in high school or college, I forget. He was like hitting on a girl and like he was like they're like listening to their iPods together. He's like, what should I put on? Coldplay.
Nice.
And like, yeah,
Yeah.
Coldplay, like this is like the song to like pit on when you're with a girl because you're both gonna experience some feeling.
Something, yeah.
Some
It's very,
vague, joyous
like,
feeling.
Cinematic almost.
Yeah.
Sorry, Moose is climbing on the
Oh no.
Oh no.
baby girl.
Don't pause, don't pause.
Baby girl.
Do we all have reverb and distortion now? I do feel louder out there.
Yeah, she turned
Yeah,
you up.
she
She
did.
turned you up.
The cat is mixing our
Wants to
podcast.
She
hear more of
decided to
me.
be a producer for a moment, but everything is back where it was.
But yeah, no, I think it's earned its 1.9 billion streams.
Sheesh.
Like I think
That's
Yeah.
so many. That's insane.
that's
Yeah.
$8 in Spotify revenue. Congratulations, Coldplay.
You're rich. That's all you need to live that lifestyle?
Yeah,
That's
Spotify's gonna give you $8 for that.
That's sick.
You can
Yeah.
get like a you pick two at Panera. Or
yeah,
something.
wow.
Shall we move on to track number 6, Trouble?
Trouble.
Yeah.
This one was like giving me kind of spooky energy. I sort of liked the
Kinda
lyrical metaphor of like, I am in a sticky situation and I'm going to sing about it as though I am trapped in a spider's web. Like
The original
that,
title, did you know?
Was it really?
Yeah,
Love that.
but they were like Trouble's more marketable.
Fair.
No, that's a joke.
Well, because like singing about spiders does not feel very Coldplay to me, and I haven't like done a deep dive into their discography like that. Like, so seeing this, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah, the guitar player is like the king of like the soft whammy touching.
Mm.
Like just like the bareliest bend. Yeah. It's like, oh, it just makes the whole track
Oh no,
so Coldplay.
spider web and it's me in the middle. So I twist and turn, but here am I in my little bubble, singing out. I never meant to cause you trouble. I never meant to do you wrong.
I think I'm gonna start a character on the podcast called Bass Berryman.
oh,
What is
characters welcome.
he? What's he like?
He's just a really good bass player, like
okay.
Guy Berryman is.
Nice.
That's his one attribute.
Sounds good. That sounds good. I'm into that.
But yeah, so the piano at the beginning so beautiful. The
Yeah.
whole track's just really nice. This was another single, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Trouble, Yellow and what was the other single? Shiver, I think.
I think it was
Yeah.
Shiver. Or Sparks. It might have been Sparks.
I think it was probably Shiver.
Either-
I remember there
yeah.
was a music video for that. So,
Oh, then it would have been that.
yeah. I don't know if there was.
I think this is the one that got 2 music videos, and one of them was like deemed too graphic for U.S. audiences, so they. I didn't watch them. I meant to.
That's kind of sick. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen that. That's cool.
Wow.
Watch those.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's for Coldplay. That's especially
I want to
crazy.
try to find it. And see.
yeah. See what was so fucked up about it
Yeah.
that America.
Right.
Yeah.
The dark, twisted mind of Coldplay.
Chris Martin uncovered.
Yeah. Chris Martin.
So I love the title track being the interlude. Also, that is a bold move.
Yeah, what a peculiar choice.
Yeah, speaking of like Port's podcast, like bold move, Hal. Let's see how it plays out.
Right. Yeah, should we just play
I think it's
this
fine.
interlude?
Like
Yeah.
it's a nice little reprieve after like some bangers.
In a haze, a stormy haze, I'll be round, I'll be loving you always. Always. Here I am and I'll take my time. Here I am and I wait in line. Oh,
I won't play the whole thing for copyright reasons, but there's only like 8 seconds left. That's
Man,
That's
And that's
it.
the make or break.
I
I
forgot
love
about
that song
one
so
until I
much,
heard
dude.
But it is beautiful.
Like,
Yeah.
I think interludes like that, it kind of like, because this is one of the first albums that I would like listen to as an album, I think. And it just hearing something like that made me realize not everything has to be like verse, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, chorus, or whatever. I think he like got the message of that song across in 46 seconds, and it's such a beautiful, just like sweet. I'm here for you kind of message.
Yeah.
You know?
it's like a stanza of poetry. Like whenever you buy a poetry
Yeah.
book and it's just like 4 lines on a page.
Sometimes that's
And
all
you're
you
like,
need.
I paid $38 for this, but like it's fine.
Right. That's how you feel after you buy parachutes. You get this
But it's
bullshit
like, yeah,
40
like,
seconds.
That's all. He did less with more. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of like the era we're in now that I think is so cool. I look forward to hearing people talk about the era we're in now, where like people put out like unfinished stuff just because like it might resonate with somebody, and then it does. Like, and that's really cool. Like, it's
Yeah.
awesome that like that's the type of thing where like if I had 40-second track on my computer, I would be like, that's not done. Like, I wouldn't show that to somebody. But then sometimes you show people that kind of stuff and they love it. Or like my friend Rob has a project called Yowl. It's like Y''OWL.
Oh, yeah.
And he has, it's on SoundCloud, and feel free to check it out. It's kind of like surfy kind of music, but he's like a master of that, where it's like his list of like unfinished stuff that I feel like at times he would only show me, and then I would be like, but you should put that up, like that's really good. Like, and he's like, but I'm not gonna go back to it, like I'm not in that same place anymore. It's like, so what though? Like sometimes people like hearing the process sometimes, and I think that's like helpful to have that in an album like this that feels so polished and done.
Yeah. Well, that ties
Totally.
in even more to the next track. Do you guys know the history about it?
Tell
What's
me.
the song?
This is High Speed.
Oh, nope.
This is one of the songs that was on their first EP that they kept over into the album.
Okay.
And it's the only song on the album not produced by the main producer.
Oh, this is the one.
This is the one.
Wow.
This
Let's
is
see if we can hear it.
you can, I think, in my opinion. This is not produced by Ken Nelson. This is produced by another producer, Chris Allison. And it doesn't shine the same way. I think they made the correct decision because they were going to do the whole record with this producer.
Okay.
And they did change. And I think it would pay off. Like a little muddy. It doesn't scream Coldplay at me like Coldplay does.
Yeah.
can anybody fly this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like classic like 2000s production, like only the vocal matters, like kind of what I was like defending the other group. This sounds like the Chris Martin show, like the vocals much louder than everything else, a lot of stuff's muddled, even his acoustic guitar is like I would say the whole thing I love about this album is that it sounds like you're playing from the perspective of the person playing said instrument. Like if you hear the piano, it sounds like you hear it flowing back up to you coming out of the piano, or you hear the little slides of a finger on an acoustic guitar in that like interlude. I think they get too carried away on the acoustic guitar. It's like it's too tinny, it's too like the sound of the friction of you strumming the strings. But then the rest of it, like, yeah, you brought up a good point, Zach. Where it's just like it's super muddled and like not the star of the show. It doesn't feel like it gets equal,
which is so
shine.
juxtaposed. This next track comes in so bright, beautiful Coldplay acoustic guitar. Like We Never Change, track number 9. Like, this is Coldplay, baby. This is like swing me in a hammock, like
under the night sky.
Yeah,
This gave me
wrap
like
me up in ya.
Daughters by John Mayer.
Yeah.
This gave me the John Mayer, Jack Johnson, like
Another song in 6/8 too. They use it a lot. Yeah.
I wanna live life.
And he's gonna do that same thing where he's all down here and sultry, and then he's gonna like head voice you, and you're gonna like want to hug someone.
Beautiful.
Really great tune. One of my favorites on the back end of the album.
yeah.
Yeah.
This one almost gave me the vibes of like if you were like watching a musical and a character were to have a song where they were like realizing all of their wrongs and all of the wrongs of society.
Yeah.
Like it gave me very like monologue
Like
song.
That's a great point. Like it feels very second act of like something formulaic where you're like, here's the part where like in the rom-com they get in that fight, but you know they're gonna get back together. But like here's the part where they're in the fight and they're watching raindrops drip down the window and they miss each other. They're doing all the stuff they used to do together alone or whatever. Like I definitely see
love that
Sarah.
energy.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like a rainy day song.
Yes,
the whole album
very
is, and
much.
I love that. But it's also warm. It sounds like being inside on a rainy day, which I think is the thing to.
And
you're not walking
on the L
around
train.
in it. You're safe and sound and warm, but
Safe
like
in a car on a rainy day.
or in a car. Yeah, definitely.
You're eating soup.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, everything's not lost. That's what I say sometimes when I'm eating soup on a rainy day. Also, the name of the last track, or Wink. You guys
Hidden number in there.
talking
I
about the
forgot
90s,
about
do you
that.
guys remember when like secret tracks were actually secret and not like spelled out in the Spotify description?
Yeah, that's so funny.
You had to like actually like forget to turn like to change the CD for like 2 minutes in your CD player to hear a secret track.
I never really experienced that myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And it sounds like such
joy.
a magical feeling.
The joy of finding a secret track in a record.
It sounds dope. Like there's a lot of tracks that I think are like the best track on an album. Like I'm pretty sure on London Calling, like Train in Vain is not listed. Like it's one of those ones similar to Yellow where they like did it in the studio, so it was like a last minute ad. So they had already printed like the album artwork and it didn't include Train in Vain. So it's like a secret track, but it's like catchy as hell. It's like like probably in my opinion, the best song on there, and arguably like the Clash's best song. So I always think those are so funny because like it's funny now. Like I'm glad that I know that because I would like go in a record store if I didn't know that and be like, why the fuck is Train in Vain?
can't
find it.
Some
Right.
weird edition that doesn't have
I'm
it.
not gonna
I don't
buy this
then
record.
luckily there's other good tracks on there, so I
Yeah.
still might. But like I would it would definitely make me be like, is there like a version where Train in Vain is on it? I thought that was on here. Like I don't want the one that doesn't have that. Like,
Where's
that's
the
one of my
deluxe
favorites.
edition? Yeah.
But this one starts off to me like a little cheesy and like a little too soft. But when the full band comes in, like I'm
For
just
everything's not lost.
yeah, I'm just happy again. I'm just like bliss in the Coldplayness.
Can we try to find the transition point? Like,
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
just
Because
Chris
it
Martin to full
definitely
band?
starts very like
It's at 2:20 because
It
I wrote it
starts
down because I
very,
love it so
like,
much.
guy in the back of the bar on the piano.
Yeah,
It's closing
which is like a fine
time.
vibe, I think, for a last track, right? To have it go
Yeah.
somewhere, to have like a what does the airplane go off of the runway?
Yeah. I love that we get a last hurrah.
Yeah.
Always be true.
Okay, so here we are, still piano,
I wanna live life.
piano and bass, mind you. Good job, Mr. Berryman.
Another song in 6/8 too.
Yeah.
I forgot how much there is of it. I always think of Sparks as the obvious one.
Never come down.
I'm sorry, we were looking for the transition.
Yeah, I think we gotta go earlier.
Yeah.
I do want to say one quick thing though, that like I guess I forget we were talking about things that are like subliminally like ingrained in us. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but not a lot. But like we're both from like, you know, presumably like Irish families. I know my family's probably held on to it more than most that like are multiple generations living in America. But like I forgot how much like Irish folk music was on when I was a kid, and that like 6/8 thing is very big, and like
Yeah.
And a
traditional
jig.
Irish music, and
Yeah.
like I think it's one of the things that draws me to like the British, you know, Irish like kind of stuff like U2 and Coldplay and stuff, is because it like that's like a traditional music element. Like that's not something that you hear in a lot of American music sometimes, because it's like most 6/8 music comes from either like, you know, the UK or like I think it was another like time signature that was big in like Africa and stuff like that. So like you hear it in a lot of like Motown music, and you hear it in a lot of like British invasion like kind of music, but like you don't hear it in a lot of like American like pop.
Yeah, Americans
Music
really
sometimes.
big about the backbeat, right?
Yeah,
The-
yeah,
the
and it's
snare on
like
2 and the 4.
yeah, and it's
We
like
love
something
folk.
about a snare on 4 just kind of leaves it more open, and there's a little more
Yeah.
like kind of saunters along kind of thing, and I don't know, it's really beautiful. I think that's still something that always gets me like when I hear music like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you like all the room to kind of feel something before the next downbeat.
For sure.
So now the album is over. Or is
Is
it?
it?
We already did that like reveal earlier. So we have a hidden track if you forgot to, I don't know, stop your record player or your CD player. Or if you're listening on Spotify and it tells you
Hidden track.
in the name of the last track, Life is for Living is sort of the little hidden track. From like a production standpoint, I do kind of like the way that this song starts sounding a bit fuzzy and a bit like almost demo-y,
Mhm.
and then kind of expands on itself.
Yeah.
So at first you're like, who's singing to me? And then it's like, oh, this is a Coldplay song.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another full song here. I
do
thought
wanna-
that was cool.
I do want to play a little bit of it just so they can experience. And I think that's kind of like not a cliche, but like an occurrence for the bonus track, is that it is a little like less put together.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like sometimes it'll include like an element of a demo or like just yeah, so here he is, just all solo. Kind of like one of the only times we get him just in like
Yeah, it even peaks a little bit. It's
Yeah.
funny getting older and noticing some of the production of stuff, not stuff you noticed when you were a kid.
yeah, that acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
And then
it's
we're
like, you can tell they finished it in the studio, because
Yeah.
it's like the
Yeah.
beginning. It's like we did the best we could with the demo, but yeah, that's a good point. I never noticed that.
It's so sweet.
But life is for
Yeah, it's a really nice send off.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Too bad Spotify ruined it for us.
See, it's funny because I never thought of it as a secret song. I just like, and in fact, I was like, "There's a secret song." I wonder if the CD I had didn't have that, or like,
Oh, but it did.
But it did. It's just like you just think of it as kind of just like Quinn was saying, like a less structured song. Like again, a reminder of like it doesn't always have to be verse, chorus. Sometimes there's a little trailing off, like kind of thing tacked on the end of something. Like it's a kind of reminder of like sort of the no rules, like do whatever you want to do.
No
kind of-
rules.
Yeah, so it's nice to hear.
Thank you, Coldplay, for teaching us to break the rules.
Yeah, never something you probably never thought you would say, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Coldplay inspired your outcast attitudes.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're here at the end, I've got a couple of Robrewski ideas brewing.
Yeah,
A
do you want to
Robrewski
say
idea
it?
brewing, as it does.
Let's hash it out.
And the award for your mom's favorite band and your secret favorite band goes to
Coldplay. And the album is Parachute.
Yay!
Well done.
Folks. Well, Coldplay, thank you for releasing that album and letting us talk about it, even though we didn't ask permission. And to the people at home and wherever listening to this episode, thank you for listening. We are Album Rebrews, and we will continue to be Album Rebrews. If you want to check us out on Twitter or Instagram, we are at Album Rebrews. If you want to take a look at our website, it is www.albumrebrews.com. Also, this is getting released on the 13th of November, and I believe nominations are still open for the Chicago Readers 2023 Best of Chicago. If you're feeling like a hot, sexy beast, you can nominate us for Best Music Podcast for 2023 for Chicago. We'll include a link in the description of this episode where you can write us in. And if enough of you hot, sexy beasts write us in, you'll have the honor of voting for us later this year. We appreciate ya.
Do it. A big thanks to Cameron Bopp, our editor and singer-songwriter extraordinaire. We couldn't do the show without him, so go give him a follow on Twitter at CamBop and go support him. He does a lot of audio work in and around the city, and he's just a great guy. A big thank you to Big Weather for coming on. It was so nice to have you guys on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, if you are a fan of music, and you are because you listen to our podcast, go listen to Big Weather. You can check out their EP Square Dancing on Spotify, and you can go follow them on Instagram at The Big Weather. I feel like I'm talking in an NPR voice, but it's just because I'm in a hurry.
You are.
Sorry.
Anything you two guys want to say before we get on out of here?
This was the best podcast I've ever been a guest of.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. I
Rebrews.
guess technically it's the only guest.
Yay!
Still
We'll
the
take it.
best,
We'll
yeah.
take it.
Yeah, no, this was honestly a blast. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'll say one last kind of funny thing, but I really love this movie, like The Commitments. If you've ever seen it, it's like about like an Irish band that does like Motown covers, and the guy who's like the manager of the band always has these moments where he like interviews himself like while he's like taking a shower, like kind of like shower thoughts kind of thing, and it's fun, like kind of like you surprise yourself like how much of this stuff you know what to say, because you have those like moments where you're like what would I say if I ever hit it big and people interviewed me? It's like, it's kind of fun to be on the
Yeah.
end of it. Yeah. So thanks so much for indulging us and letting us talk and stuff. And yeah, I honestly had a blast and looking forward to listening to more of these podcasts and stuff. I think these are awesome. Like, feel really genuine and a lot of fun. And yeah, I really love the music that people are picking too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Got some great alum. Well, to send everyone off, the last thing we're going to do is go around the horn in the same order that we introduced ourselves and get very, 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 very close to the microphone and say a very quick ASMR style goodbye to the listeners. So I'll go first. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.